What is up, guys? This is Zach with Yards Per Fantasy doing another personalized podcast. This time we got a redraft league, full PPR for the greatest show on paper. And I'm excited because we got ourselves another fun one, guys. How you guys doing tonight?
Feeling good.
Let's go. We're ready.
We got some real football yesterday.
Oh, yeah, about time.
Yeah, some unreal football too. So yeah, we're just gonna go through all of your guys' teams real quick, talk about things we like, don't like, give some analysis. Then at the end, probably tell you who's gonna kick all your asses and have some fun along the way, because that's what it's all about.
That's the plan.
And with all that said, I guess I'm just gonna dive right into it here. And the first team I'm gonna talk about was the Pieces 131 on Sleeper. And this is where you guys got us all fucked up here. Right off the start, you guys got us messed up. I'm just fucking with you.
First pitch curveball.
Yeah, right. Queensland Schmeichels. I thought it said Schmeckles at first, and I was about to be really happy.
That would jump in my ranks.
Yeah, I know exactly. But we got his name is Evan, and according to our notes over here, where did you go? Oh, unnoted on this document. Oh, this one's not good. Oh, here you go. Queen. Oh wait, I got that name wrong down on my paper. Man, great start, guys. Mainly for me. Anyway, this is Reese. That says on the note. Least active user in the league. Oh, thank God that the least active user is the one I started with the mess up on. We can't even shit talk him because he never shows up to participate. So it'll be his 4th year in the league, but 2nd year as official manager. He's from Clemson and loves Clemson. Let's go. He also is a Ravens fan who loves going to games in person with the league mates when he can. His brother, B-Lot, and him usually go to one game together every year. Usually talk a lot of strategy together. Usually ends up with Reese sniping all of his players 1 round earlier than he can get them. Classic. Gotta love that move. First off, being a quarterback, you're sitting on Dak and Rodgers. And I'm cool with this pairing. I mean, Dak is fine at the 7th round, the back end of the 7th round here, and that offense is going to be good. So, yeah, I'm cool with Dak there. Not the biggest fan of Rodgers this year. I think his upside is really capped. With the 2 running backs in there this year, they're going to play strong defense, so I don't think they're going to be out there trying to, blow the lid off everyone with points. Probably some slower pace. And Rodgers just isn't going to be throwing 40 touchdowns anymore. Like, that's just not who he is. And that's fine. So I'm just not super interested in fantasy for him, but you got him in round 13 as your backup, so it's not awful. Running backs, you got Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Devon Achane, and Devin Harris. You took Josh Jacobs at the 201, which, like, I'm cool with Jacobs this year as like a heavy workhorse guy. But you took him before CeeDee Lamb, AJB, and Garrett Wilson, and I'm not cool with that. I would have taken any 3 of them here easily. You took Aaron Jones at the 401 for your running back 2. I'm cool with that. I think he's going to get a lot of work this year. He's like the proven, trusted commodity in that offense. And I think they're going to, give him a good amount of run. And he's just going to be a solid player. So I'm cool with that pick. After that is Kamara. He took him 512. I'm kind of out on him this year, especially for redraft because he's missing time. Like, that just always sucks to just start off the bat with a guy who's missing time. And then after him, with the 9-12 pick, he took Achane, which is totally fine. But I wouldn't have drafted him and Kamara together since they're both missing time early. Like I said, like in redraft, if you already start the season missing time, you're just you're just limiting the production he's actually going to be able to potentially have for you. And then to do that with two players is not the greatest strategy, I would say. But at the back end of the ninth round, it's not like the most sunken cost for you. And you rounded out Damian Harris in the 12th, which is fine depth wide receiver. You took CeeDee Lamb at the 112, and then you turned it with Jacobs. So I would. Oh wait, I wrote down you should have taken CeeDee. You did take CeeDee. Sorry. You should have doubled up a receiver here because you could have had CeeDee, AJB, Wilson, Devontae. You had the pick to go the double wide receiver at the tail end of the first, which is like the prime. That's like a prime spot to do it.
Agreed.
And you didn't, so that sucks, but that's okay. The next two for you at wide receiver here is where I'm not like super huge. You took DeAndre Hopkins 411 with guys like London, Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin on the board. I just am not a super fan of Hopkins over dudes like that as a guy who's playing in a running offense. Your wide receiver 3 is Pittman at the 6-1. Once again, not a huge fan. I think his ceiling is super capped playing in a running offense with a quarterback who's going to struggle throwing out of the gate. Now Richardson may develop and the passing skills really may flourish, but like it's not going to be this year. So I don't like Pittman at all for redraft. And once again, you're taking the options in a run first offense. When once again you had guys like Mike Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Tyler Lockett, Chris Kirk available. So yeah, I'm out on Pittman this year. And you took JSN at 801, which yeah, I'm down for that. Cool, good job there. A lot of ceiling and a floor, really. Expect the Seahawks offense to throw more this year and just be a good offense, score a lot of points. And Sky Moore at 1001, which if we recorded this podcast 48 hours ago, I might have said different words. But last night was rough.
Yep.
His biggest saving grace is he didn't look like as much shit as Kadarius Toney. So, like, at least like he's not the first one to, be in the doghouse, I think. Who knows what's going to happen with him, but not a good start. Tight end, Pat F. My boy Pat F. Pat Freiermuth from Steelers at 712. Fine spot to take him here. It's kind of like not, you wait, you let the people pass on the top guys, and then you swoop in, kind of get someone in that next tier. He's a little lower at that next tier, which is why I like him, because in that like middle tier guys, I don't think there's like a huge discrepancy. So I'm gonna wait, and I'm just gonna, if I don't get one of the top dudes, I'm just gonna wait a little bit. And you backed it up with Dalton Schultz, who I think is just a fine floor tight end to have as a backup. Overall, this team here, like I said, not huge fan of doubling up on the running backs who are missing time. Personally, like I said, not a huge fan of Rodgers. I like your tight end combo here. But man, the wide receiver room, there's potential here because you had the draft slot to really build an awesome wide receiver room. But like since I said you only took CeeDee at that first turn, and then when you finally did make it back to taking your next two receivers, you took guys in running offenses. So I'm not a huge fan of the strategy. Overall, I think this is going to be like a borderline competitive team. Like this team can still make the playoffs, maybe make some noise, pieces fall into place. But overall, I think it'll probably be like middle of the road. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I agree with a lot of what you said. Definitely think too early on Jacobs with like other wide receivers available and this wide receiver group in general compared to some of these other teams. It's not going to do what you need it to do. So you're going to need a huge bounce back year from Dak. You're going to need a huge tick up from Patty Fryermuth. And just overall, I agree. I think it's like a middle of the road kind of team where that's not what you're trying to do in fantasy.
Yeah, I agree. This is like your 6th or 7th place team in this league. I do like the Dak and CD stack on this team. I do like that a lot. But you really are counting on Josh Jacobs being last year's Josh Jacobs with where you drafted him and the way this team is structured.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, going through the draft, I think there's some spots I would have done differently, but no like DEFCON 5 errors at least. So that gives you the ability to, like I said, maybe make some noise.
Yeah, you can definitely build with this team throughout the year.
I mean, if JSN ends up being special right away,
Yep.
this team looks a lot better. So that's probably your X factor, make or break it pick kind of thing. A-Chain kind of the same way. He has a path now with Jeff Wilson being hurt. But sucks. I know Armstead isn't playing week 1. So usually that offense really suffers when he's out. So.
Ooh, yeah, and I forgot to mention Camaro was taken with Rashad White on the board. And
yeah, definitely would have gone White.
Yeah, for pulling your running back 3 and with a guy with that much expected volume available, yeah, I would have definitely gone there.
That one hurts.
Yeah, it's not 2020 anymore.
All right. Who wants to go next, Dennis?
Sure. So the next team we'll talk about is Ranspan, aka Brees's Pieces. So looking at the notes that you guys provided us, this is Hunter. Shout out yards per. He's the reigning champ and then a runner-up 2 years ago. So he's had some good success recently. And then, like I say,
it's always those people who want to get the podcast done.
Constantly gets into debates with Chris over literally anything, and we'll debate about it for hours, even though it's mostly useless and unimportant shit.
Wow, we have a Chris that does the same thing.
Right. That definitely sounds like the league that Zach and I share and been doing for a while. So I definitely have a kindred spirit there. Moving on to his team. So kind of had a thought just looking it over, and I went with the Zoolander gift. Dear God, it's beautiful. I love this team. I wanted to come in and shit all over Hunter's team, but I can't. It's really good. I know. I really nothing came. I came in with a bias, and then I was like, shit. He has got Josh Allen at quarterback, great QB1, top overall quarterback upside. He rushes every year for several hundred yards, and then he has a weak running back room behind him. So I don't see that goal line kind of upside touchdowns going away anytime soon. Still has the alpha and Diggs. Like he's got a good O-line. Like Allen's awesome. Moving on to running backs, he's got Ramondre, Brees, Tank Bigsby, Jalen Warren, Kendra Miller, Chuba Hubbard. I love Ramondre this year. We just had our home Jeff we've been doing for over a decade, and he was my top running back, and I love it. So few running backs have the combined rushing and receiving floor that he does, and he's a big dude. I know Zeke's there, but I just think his touchdowns are going to go up this year. Brees, he showed he could be an absolute difference maker when he's healthy. He had 5 top 15 weeks in the 6 that he played full, and like he wasn't even like the main guy for most of those weeks. Obviously, he had the ACL, so I wouldn't expect that right away. But I think eventually he's going to get there. And if you've been listening to us throughout the offseason, we all kind of agree with that. And then the rest of the RB room, it's just good handcuffs, man. I love the strategy of loading up on a whole bunch of them. Warren and Kendre, they do have standalone value upside. Kendre probably less so now due to he's had a couple injuries. And then Kamara's only giving out 3 games. Some people are projecting closer to 6. But I just like the player a lot, and I'm a believer in talent rises. So and Jalen Warren, He has shown to be more efficient, more explosive than Najee. So I think he's going to get his. And if he continues to look better, they're going to keep giving him more and more touches. And I think that's an ascending offense. Wide receiver room, he's got Justin Jefferson. So that's always a great start. I mean, you can't beat that. And then he's got backups. Like he's got Olave, he's got Dotson, he's got Gabe Davis, Elijah Moore, he's got Mims. Like this group low-key slaps. It's so good. Having Jefferson, and you only have to start 2 wide receivers. Obviously, with the 2 flex, most weeks you'll be starting 3 to 4. But when you only have to start 2, and one of them is Jefferson, like our wide receiver 2 doesn't have to be great. But he does. He's got Olave, who you're right. He's got Olave, who I believe was the leader, if not one of the leaders in fantasy points per target last year. And he just got a QB upgrade to Derek Carr. I love Dotson, also a leader in that same category. Also probably a QB upgrade. And second-year first-round wide receivers, those are the types of players you want to invest in. Typically, you expect a leap. Gabe Davis, he completes a stack, which I know we're fans of, and he'll do a wonderful job of cheerleading the rest of your team from the bench. So that's always a plus. You always need a cheerleader. It's great, right? That's what you want. It just hypes up, locker room guy, that kind of thing. Elijah Moore and Mims, they're flyers, so maybe something happens and they get an opportunity. But they got upside. They're day 2 guys that were drafted. So that rounds out a pretty good wide receiver room that I'm a big fan of. It's not the best in the league, but it's really good. And when you consider the rest of the rooms, it really keeps the team afloat. And then the last one's Kyle Pitts for your tight end room. You have the upside of upside tight ends. Dude's a unicorn. He gets open. He gets a high target share. It's a low volume passing offense, I know, but he does have that elite 25% target share or plus. He seems to be recovered from his injury, and he's entering his age 23 season. He turns 23 this October. Like his best days are ahead of him. Overall, this team's incredible, and I have to say it's a major front runner for the team in the draft. I'm just a big fan. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah,
I love the bench.
Agreed on the bench. I think it's hilarious that he got Ramondre and Brees, because for one of my teams later, for their 3rd and 4th round pick, they took double running back, and I said you could have walked out with Ramondre and Brees. So that's kind of funny.
Wild. Yeah.
But yeah, this team's really good. The best thing we got is you drafted Gabe Davis, you idiot.
We'll forgive him, though. We'll forgive him because he's got the stack. We'll forgive him.
I guess he tried. Good luck knowing when to play him.
I know. Yeah, elite receivers, elite quarterback, potential to have 2 high-end running backs. And I hate to keep going back to the bench, but I love the bench on this team. This is exactly how I like my benches to look. Mm-hmm. These handcuff running backs with Bigsby and Jalen Warren, Kendre Miller, Chuba Hubbard, and then the high upside wide receivers, Marvin Mims and Elijah Moore. Absolutely built perfectly with that bench, in my opinion.
I agree.
Proud of you, Hunter.
Nailed it.
Didn't want to, but I had to give him props.
Yeah.
All right, you're up, Alex.
All right. My first team is full Chubb, Taylor's version. This is Wes. He's the biggest Maryland and Commanders homer in the world. He hypes the shit out of anyone with ties to those teams, and he shows extreme bias with anyone having a relation to those teams, but then is actually relatively knowledgeable and unbiased for players on other teams. He's a co-commissioner of this league and one of the founders. I feel like just about every team is one of the founders going through the notes. 3 of the last 4 years, he was the worst team to make the playoffs. He's usually in the playoff race each year, but he never truly contends. He won it all in 2018, though. He's also obsessed with kickers, and he refuses to even consider removing them from the league.
Ugh.
I had a league with somebody like that. They said, I built my team around the kickers and the defense. If you eliminate them from the league, I'm quitting. I don't understand that. But this guy even wants to add punters to the league.
Jesus Christ.
How do you even score punters? What the hell?
Why would you want to?
Why? Yeah, why? He does hold the league record for the most winning seasons and the most consecutive winning seasons, which both are 6. So that's
You know what
something
this
to
guy
do.
was? He was a Maryland State champion punt, pass, and kick. 12-year-old division.
Like Andy Reid out there looking bigger than all the other kids.
Yeah, that's the first thing I pictured when he said that.
Carlos from the Benchwarmers. I am 12.
I am 12.
All right, quarterback, we got Patrick Mahomes. Not off to the greatest start, but I think he'll be okay once Kelsey's back. I expect he'll be back next week. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. Can't go wrong there. Running back, we got Nick Chubb. I think he's in line for the best season of his career yet. Everything's kind of aligned for him. I think it's as long as Deshaun Watson is anywhere close to his old self, that offense is going to be really good. And that's just only going to be good news for Nick Chubb. Best offense he's ever been a part of. And could have a career high in receptions. Also got James Conner on this team. I think he's going to get a ton of volume as a runner and a receiver, but the offense is going to be terrible. Limited touchdown opportunities, which is where he's scored a lot of his fantasy points over the last 2 years in Arizona. So that has me a little bit concerned about him. The volume gives him a nice little bit of a floor, but without the touchdown opportunities and the completely inefficient offense, I think he's got like no ceiling at all. We could also say no ceiling for Cam Akers as well. I actually think the loss of Cooper Kupp is a negative for Cam Akers because it brings down the efficiency of the entire offense. They're going to have less plays, less red zone trips, less goal line opportunities because the offense it's not going to be good without Cooper Kupp. The offense is Cooper Kupp. And I love Cam Akers, but not this year.
That offense stays ahead of the chains because of Cooper Kupp.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The offense was probably going to be bad even with Cooper Kupp. And now they're going to be bottom 5 offense without him. And I think he could lose passing game work. Not that he had a ton anyway, but looks like Kyron Williams is going to work in on third downs there. Then we got Jonathan Taylor. I think this team is really dependent on Jonathan Taylor coming back and being himself. But right now we know he's on the PUP for who knows how long. We don't know if we're going to see him at all this year. We don't know if he's going to be on the field for the Colts or a different team. That's a big question mark, and that is the big X factor of this team. This team is going to live or die by the status of Jonathan Taylor. Wide receiver, we got A.J. Brown. He was the wide receiver 8 last year. I expect about the same from him this year. Deebo Samuel. Let's go over the last 4 years in fantasy points per game from Deebo Samuel. 2019 was 12.6. 2020 was 11.5. And he had that big 2021 season of 21.2. Last year was 13.0. 2021 looks like it's the outlier. So I'm a little worried about Deebo Samuel being consistent in that offense. They got no reason to run him when they've got a healthy Christian McCaffrey and a healthy Elijah Moore. So he's not going to be getting carries, which is what carried him in 2021. Brandon Cooks. I really like Brandon Cooks a lot this year. Good value, late round receiver, 1,000 yards with every team he's played for, wide receiver 22 or better, 7 times in his career. And then the rest of the receivers on this team are Michael Thomas. We'll see if he can stay healthy. Romeo Dobbs is already questionable for week 1. Don't love him anyway. Curtis Samuel and KJ Osborne round out the wide receiver core here. Tight end, we got David Njoku. He broke out last year. He's another one of these guys is really dependent on Deshaun Watson returning to his Texans form. And if he does, I like David Njoku with top 5 upside. And then if he doesn't hit, you got Chigakonkwo, who's another guy who's just a good take a swing, see what happens at the end of your draft type of tight end. But overall, I think this is a good team. Good, not great, but good. You got a stud quarterback, a workhorse running back with Nick Chubb. Like I said before, the big question mark is Jonathan Taylor. But if he plays, that's really going to make this team a contender. In the meantime, you got James Conner and K Makers. That should be enough to get you through the early portion of the season. And you're strong at wide receiver 1. You got a volatile wide receiver 2, but sometimes you got to embrace the volatility. I'm okay with that, even though I'm a little bit concerned about Deebo Samuel. And we got that underrated wide receiver 3 in Brandon Cooks, and that tight end with top 5 upside. What do you guys think about this team?
I like it. I think it definitely has strong contending possibilities. I'm higher in Deebo. That year that he broke out, he did have like 1,500 yards receiving too. He just rushed for a lot of touchdowns. But I agree with what you said. He's not going to rush like he did. Like there's no reason to. But I do think that as a receiver, he could get back to that kind of level. And then I agree with Njoku. I mentioned it on another team I reviewed that they got sniped by one pick by Full Chubb, it looks like, for Njoku, and it would have been a very, very clutch pick to be able to get him. He did well down the stretch. I like him week 1 versus Cincy. So it's just, you got great defense. Not that I like talking about defenses, but there's a couple that I care about, and Niners is one of them.
Yeah, it helps when Mahomes is the 4th quarterback off the board.
How?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a great pick then. Excellent.
Great pick, get better.
I didn't look at the draft board that closely, clearly.
Someone's a Lamar fan. Interesting.
Yep, it was Hurts, Lamar, Allen, Mahomes.
Mahomes going to go down. Always clutch.
Obviously, the consensus 4, but I don't know of a world where I'd rank Mahomes 4.
No.
Yeah, no. Even after last night, I have no worries about Mahomes at all.
He looked incredible. It's not his fault.
Yeah, he looked great. And he's going to get Kelsey back. And one of those receivers is going to step up eventually, right? Maybe.
You'd think so.
Mike Evans coming to town.
Ooh, that would be electric.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, it would. Even a dusty Mike Evans can do something with Patrick Mahomes.
I agree that I think James Conner is a solid RB2, especially going back to my argument with Justin Jefferson. Like, I think Chubb, if it's not McCaffrey, it's Chubb for RB1. And so when you have that really strong RB1, you can be a little bit weaker on your RB2. And I think James Conner as your RB2
and then,
is very solid.
In 5 or 6 weeks, you could be adding Jonathan Taylor to this room.
Yeah.
And you've got an elite running back room at that point, where Cam Akers is your 4th running back. Not bad, especially when you're still in good shape at wide receiver.
You can't.
It's not like you didn't really sacrifice a whole lot of wide receiver to get this running back room.
All right.
Yeah, across the board, it's just a good all around team.
Definite playoff.
Yeah.
Okay, next up for me is Carthy. I need a running back and Jesus. He won in 2021, lost to Hunter in the playoffs last year. Always a contender, holds the record for best regular season in league history, going 13-1 in 2021. However, known for being very non-committal with trades, has agreed to so many trades and backed out at the very last second.
Boo.
Yeah, that's rough, man. Nobody
Don't be
likes
that
that.
guy.
Don't ever be that guy.
He always second guesses himself and trades away his best players. For example, he traded away Lamb and Ramondre last year before they went off. Ooh, man, people trading CD when Dak went down was silly. But yeah, and Ramondre, bro, constantly the one reaching out to others and starting trade, and then you're the one who backs out.
Oh my goodness.
What is this? But the second someone agrees to a trade, he will be suspicious and second guess it and decide not to trade.
Oh
Funny.
my God.
Alex, one of the founders.
Use our trade calculator.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
That'll help it.
So this team here, so he's always a contender. Oh, he better hope that I'm wrong then, because this team not great, Bob. You got Daniel Jones, took him in the 11th round. That's fine. He's got the rushing upside. Dable did great work with him. So yeah, like that part I'm cool with. You picked up Russ as a free agent. Once again, totally fine there. Running back is where it starts to get a little sticky. This is the team I prefaced earlier. In the 3rd round, you went Jahmyr Gibbs. And then in the 4th round, took Dameon Pierce. Right off the bat, if you took Ramondre and Brees, this team is just instantly way better. Like,
I agree.
So much better. Just by those 2 picks alone. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's in the timeshare. I mean, he's going to get more work than what we saw last night. But he's obviously way up there for the dynasty. But, like, redraft, he's going to be a good player this year, but like I don't think he hits his career ceiling this year. And so to take him kind of like in the spot he's being taken in dynasty drafts in a redraft is just out there to me. Pierce, I'm not a huge fan of that running style. I just don't see how he ever plays like a full season and is like totally healthy for it. Plus, he's just on a bad team. That's just like a thing I'm kind of trying to avoid personally. I mean, there are some players that are just that special and warrant it. But for the most part, you take Dameon Pierce in the 4th round, and then you're banking on the Texans offense to be like middle of the pack. That's like what you're hoping for in order for that pick to pan out. So that's just not a play I'm putting my chips on. So like I said, I would have gone Mixon was available too at round 3. So you could have gone Ramondre or Mixon instead of Gibbs. 4th round, DJ Moore, Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker. Yeah, 3rd and 4th round, you kind of fumbled it here. Sanders, as your running back 3 is fine. In the 5th round, he's going to get a ton of volume this year. He'll catch maybe a couple passes, whatever. But I just think the volume is there for him. And then I think that offense is going to be better than the Texans. I have more faith in Bryce Young, especially early in their careers. You got Monty as your RB4, which I love. And I love that you got him in the 7th round. But why did you double up on the Detroit backfield? Like, I don't understand that. Running back. Well, back to Monty, though. We saw exactly why people draft him last night. The carries are there. The team trusts him. He's going to get red zone work. He's on the field a lot. It's going to be an offense that scores points. 7th round running back with all those things I just mentioned. Sign me the hell up.
I think they trust him in pass protection more, which worries me for Gibbs.
Right, absolutely.
Even though he got destroyed on one last.
Yeah, I was gonna say he did have the trip, right?
He got destroyed on one, but yeah.
Well, yeah, you take everything we just mentioned about David Montgomery, and at 709, it's like, fuck yeah. But you have Jahmyr Gibbs, so it's like the one thing about drafting David Montgomery that like would be like, hey, what's one situation where I'm not doing it is like, yeah, if I drafted Gibbs earlier. So that's weird.
Yeah.
And then you got Devin Singletary to handcuff Dameon Pierce in the 12th round. I'm fine with that because I know I mentioned the bad offense thing, but it's a little different when it's 12th round sunken cost versus 4th. So yeah, if Pierce gets hurt, Singletary is just gonna get a lot of work. That's just the thin roster, and that's all there is to that for a 12th round pick. There is a little bit of upside there, and I'm cool with it. Same with Spears, except for Spears, if Henry goes down, he's gonna just be getting crazy work. So for a 13th round redraft pick, I really like Spears for where you took him here. Actually, it's a pretty good overall room. Like I said, the Gibbs Monty situation just really messed me up. I'm so confused by that. I just don't see a situation panning out where like you're gonna start both in the same week ever. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Interesting moves there. Wide receiver, you got Stephon Diggs at 109. That's great. Like some people are taking him at 4 or 5. I mean, so the fact that he slipped to you at 9 and you took advantage there, great. You turned it back around with Cooper Kupp at 204, though, and that's what I don't get because Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith are on the board. All receivers who are uninjured, play on better offenses, and Kupp is one of those players that, yes, if he were healthy, he would have warranted. Well, he wouldn't have been available, but he is one of those players that, yes, he's going to be on a bad offense, but he is that special to where, yeah, here's a guy that we can do that with. But with the hammy, and now they're bringing up nerves potentially. Like, I don't want anything to do with that. What's the tipping point for you guys in redraft? Like, he's slipping. At what point do you say, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger now?
As of the latest news,
I don't even know.
Probably we got to be at least after round 5.
I was going to probably say 4-ish somewhere. Yeah. So
a hamstring injury is just it's so easy to re-injure, and it lingers.
Yeah, they linger.
And you never know if it's 100% until you try. And when you try to go up to 100%, if it's not, you're back on the mend for another couple of weeks. So
when you need to see a specialist for your hamstring, you know it's in rough shape.
Yeah, I think that's the first time I've actually heard that. Like, you hear that all the time. Oh, he's going to see a knee specialist or whatever. I think this is legit the first time I've heard of a hamstring specialist.
Yeah, right.
That's a really good point. So yeah, taking Kupp over some of the receivers that were available in a redraft when Kupp could easily miss half of your regular season.
You're banking this whole team on Cooper Kupp's health by making that pick in round 2.
Yeah, it's not great, Bob. And then you didn't get another receiver till 6th round, Mike Williams, which I'm cool with. Chargers are gonna just throw the shit out of the ball. Great contested guy, red zone catch guy, and he's a really good like boom play. Like he's one of those dudes where his floor is okay. But man, Mike Williams is gonna have those games where he just pops for you and wins a week for you. And that is super, super awesome because you're gonna probably need him to do that some weeks.
Yeah, because he's your wide receiver 2.
Essentially, which makes your wide receiver 3 Juju Smith-Schuster,
whose knee may explode at any time.
What? I just like him.
Didn't draft in the 4th round.
No, I'm just expecting some Looney Tunes ass shit one day on the field with Juju.
Call Wally Coyote.
Yeah. Another player I'm just staying the hell away from because, yeah, it's redraft. You just can't. Injuries, when you're drafting players who are already hurt, you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage in redraft. And then Bateman in the 10th round, I'm like, no to notable Bateman hater, but in the 10th round, cool. Like he's going to get a lot of volume and usage. They're going to throw the ball more, and I trust Lamar. So I'm cool with that pick there, and I just don't think he's like the dude some people think he is. But 10th round pick, yeah, it's cool depth, and luckily for you, you need the depth. And your last person, Jaden Reed, as a 15th rounder, is a great pick, especially.
Except if you look at his roster, he has traded away Jaden Reed for Puka Nacua.
No,
I think Spears was in that trade too, because Spears isn't on the roster either.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
You traded both of them for Puka Nacua?
I don't see Spears.
He went in complete Cooper Kupp panic mode. And now Jaden Reed's in a better situation because Christian Watson's out and Romeo Dobbs might also be out.
And he's a better player.
Green Bay actually has
a better player.
Line.
I'm sorry for you.
Really fucked yourself. I tried to find the trade, but it doesn't. The transactions aren't coming up for me.
But that's the only guy who says trade under required. So I don't think it was a 2. I think it was a 2-for-1.
But I've been waiting for you to finish to go off on this guy for this trade.
Like he's falling into the same territory of one of my guys later on.
We're gonna get Hunter to send us this deal.
I'm looking to see if I can find where the other team is who got the other side. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find it. That's all right.
Go on tight ends.
So yeah, I had nice things to say about the back end of the wide receiver room, but not anymore. Your team name should be I need a wide receiver in Jesus. Tight end. You took Ingram in the 8th round. Like that's an okay pick. My problem here is you should have felt the board out better. 3/4 of your league already had a tight end when you took Ingram. And so you should have like pieced that together and been like, hey, I can chill for a few rounds, because you really could have used the positional depth. Well, you could have used that spot as a receiver pick. And as far as like Ingram goes, the Jags are going to be a very good offense. Aside from Calvin and Christian Kirk, I just think everybody else is just going to pop randomly. And for tight end, you could have taken Njoku. There was a couple other guys that I probably would have taken over Ingram. And I also, like I said, I would have just waited, because at that point you had already committed to waiting that far. So you don't need to jump on him in the 8th round when the most of your league mates have already picked tight end. You followed it up with Laporta in the 14th, though, which looks like he's going to be a redraft smash. He got great usage last night. He looked good, too. Like,
he did.
He passed the eye test last night for sure. He just looked really good. And I think he's going to be a trusted target there. Yeah. Pretty much here there's just some draft slip-ups. The strategy, like I said, of getting the double Detroit back, I don't understand that one. Cooper Kupp bet 204 is just beyond me, because I don't know when did they draft? Do we know?
It had to have been after Kupp injury news, because he wouldn't have fallen until the 2nd round, right?
Right. So, yeah, I just don't think this is your year. Sorry.
So cleanup, looking like trade-wise, it was Nuka for Evan Hull. That's the only other guy who says trade. I think Jaden Reed was just dropped because one of my teams actually, has him from free agency.
Huh. Interesting.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I got to say, I hate this running back room. Like, I love the value for David Montgomery, but when you're also drafting, like you said, when you're also drafting Jahmyr Gibbs, which we saw last night why I wasn't drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. And it's certainly not because of his talent, because dude looked explosive. He is going to rip off some huge runs this year. but I'm worried that his usage, and of course, is going to go up from what it was last night. Absolutely going to go up from what it was last night. But David Montgomery is going to be heavily involved in this offense, no matter how good Jahmyr Gibbs is playing. It's just two different roles, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, they're two completely different players.
Right. So Jahmyr Gibbs, that great guy to come in and be that change of pace, huge explosion guy in the passing game, get him out in space. But David Montgomery is going to get the meat and potatoes role in that offense. And
that like is why I don't want to overreact. I don't want to overreact to week one, but the way that they even passed to Gibbs wasn't like how you'd want. Like there wasn't like a wheel route. There weren't screens. There wasn't option routes or like Texas angle routes. Like take advantage of what he can do.
Yeah,
I think those I was very disappointed.
I think those will come. It's just not going to be to the volume that people wanted him that fueled his late third, early fourth round ADP. I would have loved to take Jahmyr Gibbs in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. That's where he belongs. And the 3rd and 4th is where he was going. I couldn't get there, and you saw exactly last night why. Otherwise, that Jaden Reed trade really breaks my heart. Really,
if this team had 0 running back and even taken Sanders as their first running back, and then instead of like I don't know, maybe like round 8, just kept going at running back.
But this is a full PPR league. Why after drafting Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are we still drafting Dameon Pierce and Miles Sanders and putting them in the flex? I want my wide receivers in the flex in this league, not these running backs who don't catch passes.
Yeah, I really like Sanders. I know I'm higher than Alex is, but I mean, obviously I like Diggs. But the rest of this roster, overall it's just not cutting it. And if Kupp is back soon, Boyd's hoping, and this changes. But
you're hoping Cooper Kupp comes and saves this team.
There's just no ceiling here.
On it. Yeah, no. I agree.
Yeah, that's the big issue to me is there's just no ceiling.
Even Evan Ingram doesn't give you the ceiling that he had last year because he just went from a volume-fueled season to now he's not the second option in the passing game anymore. Now he's the third option. You could argue he was the first option at times last year. Now he's behind Ridley and Christian Kirk. And possibly even Zay Jones. And maybe we see Travis Etienne catching more passes.
Right. And Doug is just so creative that you just don't know. Like I trust the shit out of Ridley, and I still trust Christian Kirk to like as far as week in and week out guys. But I think past those two, it's gonna be a guessing game.
Yeah, I like Evan Ingram this year, but he's not going to be the volume guy that he was last year.
Well, maybe they just said, "Jesus, take the wheel," and that's what they're going with because their QB room isn't great either. Like, and not great is like, how do you have a 12-person league and you don't have a single like top 14 quarterback? I don't know.
Hey, he's got Russ. This team, Jesus definitely took the wheel. Rocco Country.
Mr.
Let's
Unlimited.
Ride. He's failing it right
now. All right, Devin.
All right. So the next one I got is NHL or NH10. I kept doing that the whole time too. I'm guessing there was a name change because I'm seeing Venny VD VC. I don't know if that's like a Tony thing. But looking at our league notes, I'm having to guess that this was formerly the Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. Good old no ring Nicky. Sorry, I had to do it. Just going based off the thing, he went 0 RB, and that was in my notes even before I saw the league notes. So I'm pretty confident this is the right person. I got Nicky. Always has a good team, but never won it. That sucks. Loses round 1 every single year. Sounds like me in my home redraft league. I have the worst luck. I've never won it, and I've been commissioned the whole time. It sucks. Anyway, his biggest rival is Greja, because that's the one that calls him No Ring Nicky. Way to go. Keep trolling. And Greja's always at the bottom of the league. All right. I like that. Keep keep poking the bear. That's always nice, especially when you get a reaction out of it. So at quarterback, you have Justin Herbert and Anthony Richardson, AR. This is a pretty stacked room. I don't love going after AR when you spend the capital to get a guy like Justin Herbert. That said, if AR does explode and ends up being that guy that people are hoping is because of his rushing upside, you have a really good option to move one of these guys because there's no need to have both, like QB7 and QB10. Like it doesn't make sense. But yeah, so QB room's really good, but hopefully you take advantage of that and move one. The RB room, you got Rashad White, Raheem Mostert, Javonte Williams, Charbonnet, Ty Chandler, Sean Tucker, my guy, and Jeff Wilson. Looks like you just waited a wee bit too long there in the 0 RB build. And I had that before I saw the notes. I really like Rashad. I think he's going to improve on those 50 catches he had last year by like a lot. And in full PPR, that's huge. However, you're really going to need Javonte to hit. Like, you're going to need him to be who we all thought he was going to be last year before his injury. Now, I'll cut a bish if they badmouth Javonte. Like, that's my guy. Love Javonte. But it was a very serious injury, so it might be a minute before he becomes a guy I love watching so much. The Miami guys should be helpful with that early on. And with Wilson getting hurt, now you know which one to play in Mostert. But, speaking of injuries, like both of them get hurt. One's already down. I mean, how long are you going to have Mostert? Just hopefully he doesn't get hurt, but it's just you got to be careful, especially with a 0 RB build. You do have solid handcuffs besides Sean Tucker. I could have egg in my face about that. I just don't think he's that guy. Wide receiver room. Now back to the good part. You got Chase, you got Garrett Wilson, Calvin Ridley, George Pickens, Van Jefferson, Jaden Reed. I mean, that top three that's about as good as you could possibly hope for. Chase, Garrett, Ridley. I think they're all certified dudes, will totally produce, and they will need to carry this team. They will do so at times, but you're going to need it every single week. Pickens is a very high variance player, but that's the guy I feel like once you got those three, you killed your 0 RB build. Either jump on running back or get to the tight end room. Because Pickens, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he's that fourth guy, and then you have your 2 wide receivers, your 2 flex, and you won't need that running back depth. But that's what I would have done in your shoes. Van Jefferson definitely has value with Cooper Kupp hurt, and then same with Jalen Reed with Watson hurt. So if if all these guys are hitting value, I'd be looking to trade for somebody who doesn't have the wide receiver room you do, because you're always going to have 3 wide receivers that you're ready to go with. Tight end, this is Ruh-roh. He just got Higbee. Now I do kind of like Higbee. He was sneaky effective as far as tight ends go. That's only because there's no depth at tight end. Like, it wasn't like he was doing things like Ingram last year where like he was helping you win weeks. It's just he was like the best of, like, he was the tallest kindergartner, to put it nicely. I would keep an eye on waivers.
Like 37 targets in 3 weeks. I know I'm exaggerating, but like I feel like his targets came in bunches. So it's a couple of weeks he popped real big, and the rest of the time he was real meh.
And like Alex said, like, it's a crappy offense. So like you don't want this much exposure to that offense because they're not really, who knows what they're even trying to do. But regardless, keep an eye on bye weeks, because I don't like that you only have the 1 tight end when if you don't have one of the set in forget it tight ends, then you need 2, and then you can hopefully play matchups. So hopefully when bye weeks roll around, you can try and snatch one that has potential. Overall, I think this team does have a chance, but when you wait like you did on running back, you have to get lucky, and especially when you miss out on a really legit tight end. You're going to need Javonte. That's your guy. You need Javonte to be an outlier as far as a double ligament knee tear recovery. That's my takes.
Yeah. Love the receiving core here and the quarterback. I I don't mind taking Richardson after you drafted Justin Herbert. You got him in the 11th round, which is okay. But with taking the 0 RB approach in that situation, I'm probably not taking Anthony Richardson. I don't love the running back depth that you got, considering you went 0 RB. I love Rachaad White, and I think Javonte is a good pick, assuming he ends up healthy. But I feel like if you had passed on Richardson, you could have taken a Roschon or a Kenneth Gainwell or Jalen Warren. I think those are much better 0 RB running backs. Even later, you got Jerome Ford, Chuba Hubbard, who you passed on. Instead, you went like Ty Chandler. Sean Tucker's a weird one. I don't love having Sean Tucker on this roster because I don't think he has a great ceiling if anything does happen to Rachaad White. And now the whole point of drafting 0 RB is you want to maximize your upside. So you're having both Tampa running backs does not allow that. If you didn't have Rachaad White and you wanted to have Sean Tucker, hoping that he ascends to that job,
right.
Great, fine. I disagree, but fine. But I don't think you can have both of those guys on a 0 RB roster. Same thing, honestly, with the Miami running backs. I know it's a little different with Jeff Wilson because you're not wasting a roster spot. You got him on the IR spot. So whatever. By the time he's back, Raheem Mostert will be on that IR spot anyway. So yeah, I don't love the way you draft a 0 RB. I love 0 RB. I love Rachaad White, Raheem Mostert, but I think you could have done better with your bench considering the strategy.
Yeah, and that's kind of, you did it more poetically, but that was basically what I was trying to say.
I wouldn't call that poetically. That was all over the place.
But more, you got to the point better, in my opinion. I think you did it more succinctly, maybe. What about you, Zach? What do you think about this one?
I don't hate the doubling up on the Miami guys only because of the scheme, the offense that's going to score points. It's different than doing it with an offense like Tampa.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't hate doubling up there, especially since you can IR Jeff Wilson. But yeah, Sean Tucker, I can't get behind. And this team added Jaden Reed in free agency, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
Some nice depth there. Yeah, this is just another team that is just good overall. And now, we've been doing more of these redraft ones, like the teams that are the most obvious that can compete are the ones who just aren't shooting themselves in the foot in the draft. And this team did that, or didn't do that, I guess.
Yeah, I wrote down my contenders for this league. I have this guy in my top 3 because I think he can get there. That receiving core is going to carry this roster on top of Justin Herbert. So
Calvin Ridley as a wide receiver 3 is a cheat code.
Yeah, you'll be able to make it work at running back too, with those guys at receiver.
I think I was just frustrated that part of the build in the 0 RB is that you nail a tight end too. Like you're taking advantage of that. Running backs are always hurt, and so you load up at running back and you get stars everywhere else.
Yeah,
and so I think you waited too long either to go running back and get make it so Rachaad White 0 RB2, or on that instead of George Pickens, you grab a tight end that you can trust to start week in week out like a Goddard.
I agree.
All right, but yeah, good team. I agree. It is one of the better ones. All right, Alex.
All right. So that brings us to legal cheaters. This is John. He was a rookie last year, and he lost to Hunter in the finals. He is relatively quiet, but when he does have something to say, it's worth listening to. He destroyed Nikki 3 times last year after he talked a lot of smack every single time.
I love that. Love that for him.
Yeah. Quarterback, he's got Justin Fields. I think we all expect he's going to take the next step as a passer this year. He's got that stud wide receiver 1 now with DJ Moore. I expect passing volume to go up. Still not going to be a high passing volume offense, but it's certainly going to be higher than what they were last year, which is going to allow for more fantasy points in the passing game, but it's also going to allow more opportunities to take off and scramble, which is what he does best. Running back, Austin Eckler. Can't go wrong with Austin Eckler. He's a stud all-around running back. He gets the goal line opportunities. He gets the receiving work, gets to between the tackles opportunities, doesn't have any competition behind him. Joe Mixon, I really like this year. I think he's a good value. He might be inefficient as a runner at this point in his career, but he's in a great offense. Another guy with zero competition behind him. And he gave you 60 receptions last year. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to do that again, especially after Samaje Perine gone. Isaiah Pacheco, I still think he's the best pure runner in that backfield. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire was used a little bit more than I expected last night, although he didn't look great. Pacheco looks explosive. He is an angry runner. And I don't know who he's angry at, but he runs like it. So he's gonna give you touchdowns, and he was worked more in the passing game last night. I think a lot of that was with no Kelsey, but he was on the field catching passes out of the backfield more than you saw like Jerick McKinnon doing. So that gives me a lot of hope for Isaiah Pacheco. Then Roschon Johnson. I love Roschon Johnson. I don't know if he's going to give you much early in the year, but I think he's worth stashing, worth hanging on to. He'll get you some receptions in the early portion of the season, and I think by the end of the year, he could be the RB1 in Chicago. At wide receiver, T. Higgins. I mean, he's going to give you that wide receiver 15 to wide receiver 12 production pretty much every single week. He's going to be consistent with that, and he's got that huge upside. If anything happens to Jamar Chase, he could be a top 5, top 6 guy with Joe Burrow as his quarterback. Amari Cooper, another guy we talked about earlier. We're really counting on Deshaun Watson getting back to his Houston form. I'm not as certain of that as I was coming into training camp and preseason, because there were a lot of negative reports about Deshaun Watson's performance during training camp and preseason. But if Deshaun Watson can ascend back to where he was prior to all the shit that he put himself through, I think Amari Cooper could be a really solid wide receiver 2 for you. I like Chris Godwin a lot as well on this team. I think he might actually be your wide receiver 2, not Amari Cooper, especially if perhaps Mike Evans gets traded at some point before the trade deadline. I think he's going to be fine with Baker Mayfield. I think he's a better skill set match with Baker than Mike Evans is. And then other receivers on this roster, Cortland Sutton, he's going to, if Judy ends up missing time, which I honestly haven't seen any injury report on him this week.
Dude, he was limited at practice the other day.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Sounds like he's got a better chance than we originally thought. But we'll see what happens. Adam Thielen, he's also banged up right now. He's questionable for week 1. He's probably dust. I don't expect much from him this year. Zay Jones, decent bench receiver. I like him on my bench more than Adam Thielen. And then same thing with
Zay is a great guy to draft at his draft position because he starts in 2 wide receiver sets.
I'd rather have him in like a best. I'd rather have him in like a best ball format where you don't have to predict when his weeks are going to be.
That's very true, but I'd still take him over Thielen.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Oh yeah, say over Thielen for sure. I do like Thielen. By the way, Jerry Jeudy questionable as of today.
Yeah, so there's nothing new on him. Like he's out or he's doubtful or he's good to go. So we'll have to wait and see. Probably a game time decision with him. I would lean unlikely to play. Jacoby Myers is another one of these guys who's just fine. Not a high ceiling guy at all. We moved to tight end. We've got George Kittle. Another one of these guys who's uncertain for week one. Going to be volatile, but when he goes off, he goes off. So I like George Kittle more than most this year for that reason. And then I think Jawan Johnson is a really solid tight end too. Sounds like he could have a chance, and I know Ryan likes him. If he was on the show, he'd be hyping him up. But he has a chance to take another step this year after a little mini breakout last year. Overall, solid team. Top 5 upside at quarterback with Justin Fields. He's got that stud running back with Austin Eckler. With a solid group behind him with Mixon, Pacheco, Roschon Johnson. Wide receiver is good, but I feel like it's missing a true wide receiver one, high ceiling guy that I like to have on my rosters. But overall, very solid starting 3. Then you get, like I said, Kittle and Juwan Johnson at tight end. Not a bad combination there at all. Thoughts on this team, guys?
Yeah, I like it overall. Like you said, though, I'm not it needs that guy as a receiver. Higgins has the talent and would be if he was, not the number 2 option. And I know he still is like a viable fantasy receiver, but I just don't really like Higgins at his price. If you look last year, even he just doesn't have the pop games that like true wide receiver ones need. And so if you're drafting a guy that high who's never going to go out there and get you 30 points, I don't want that.
Yeah, I was kind of the same page, Zach, where I feel like, and Alex, you mentioned it too, like the wide receiver room is a bunch of like steady Eddie kind of guys that you can count on. It's kind of an uncommon build because like he's going to win weeks based on his running backs and quarterbacks. It's kind of like, like a 2015 kind of build. You know what I mean? Where it's not dependent on the wide receivers. It's dependent on a quarterback going off like crazy and then the running backs having big touchdown weeks.
Yeah, especially in a full PPR league like this one, I really want to prioritize wide receiver, especially early in the draft. And then you can get your value at running back later. I want a stud that I can get top 5 weeks from at wide receiver. I don't think you have him on this roster unless something happens to Jamar Chase. And like you said, T. Higgins, he's going to give you good weeks, but he's not going to give you those top 5 weeks unless something happens to Chase. And I don't think any of these other receivers are either. Chris Godwin, you can't count on that. Yeah, I like Chris Godwin this year.
Cooper.
I don't know if he can.
He's been that guy before, but I agree. I do like the team though. I think we all agree.
Yeah. It's a solid team all the way around. But
love the tight end room, like you mentioned.
I just don't think the ceiling is there to be one of the top 3 contenders in this team. I mean, in this league.
Okay.
All right.
Get him, Zach.
I got myself a nice team here. This is Andrew. Oh, I think we got 2 Andrews. So this is Andrew Bilat. I probably said that wrong. Sorry. But your name is P-E-N on Ian. Either this is, like a big middle finger to Ian, or Ian has a pee fetish. I don't know which one. I don't, no kink shaming. So whichever it is, Ian's getting peed on. So this team has just a beautiful start with Trevor Lawrence, the prince who has promised himself. Yep. I didn't do that on purpose. I promise that I got the Trevor team.
I believe you.
I love that you got him in the 5th. He was the 8th quarterback off the board, and you took him just kind of in that dead zone. So like it's kind of the perfect spot. You were already, pretty set at running back and had a nice start at receiver. And like I said, since you were sitting in that dead zone, Lawrence being the 8th quarterback off the board, I think makes total sense. His ceiling is as high as any, like a Joe Burrow type, for a quarterback who doesn't just sit there and have the outright rushing floor or ceiling. like he's got Joe Burrow's ceiling. Taking that second-year leap with Doug Peterson that turned Carson Wentz into a potential MVP. That's some wizardry shit I don't think we'll ever fully uncover the secrets of, but wow. I expect a huge year from him. We've already mentioned Ridley and Christian Kirk are just going to be really good. He's got Ingram, Zay Jones, ETN. Now they got Tank. They got a couple tight ends behind Ingram that are going to be pretty sneaky, not for fantasy, but like just as far as like spreading the ball around. Peterson's going to be a wizard this year. He's got Trevor. He's got the talent there. He's got the toys to play with. Jaguars offense is going to be really damn good. So yeah, you should be happy about getting Trevor. You took Kyler. Took him in the 15th, so I don't hate the shot there. Because if he does end up playing this year, that's a steal and a half. The only thing I guess if I'm going to take Kyler, it's because I already punted at quarterback. So like if you were one of the teams that took the Daniel Jones as your quarterback one or something like that, then that might be the guy who's trying to take that shot at Kyler. But you took Lawrence, so in a 1 QB, yeah, I don't think you really need to be worried about it. But I don't hate it because it was the 15th round.
Might as well use that IR spot.
Yeah,
you have it. 15th round. I don't hate the pick at all.
Yeah, I don't hate it either.
But I think if somebody else comes eligible for that IR spot, I think I'm okay with kicking Kyler out and using it for somebody else.
Yeah, if you got
at a different position, yeah.
So, you might need to pick up another quarterback along the way. I don't think Jags have bye till week 9, I want to say. So you should be set for a bit. Moving to running backs, you got Pollard.
Gets hurt.
Hey, you know what?
Just wanted to see.
He's Gumby. He got turned into Gumby when he played in Detroit. Got rolled up on.
That's right. I thought
he literally his legs were jello, and I thought he died. I thought 22 was over. I thought 23 was over. Yeah. I wanted to die. It was almost the saddest moment of my life. And then all of a sudden it was like, holy shit, is that Trevor Lawrence's music? And he came running out.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it.
I was texting Zach. I'm sorry, man.
It was horrible.
It was right before halftime, too. So it was like a long time before.
Yeah, you had to wait to find out. Yeah.
And just refreshing Twitter.
Yeah. So I don't want to put any more Trevor injuries into the energy waves here. But yeah, you got Pollard and Dobbins as your 1-2 punch at running back. I'm a big fan there. Pollard is just going to be a volume machine and a good offense. He's going to catch passes. He's going to be on the field a ton. They never brought in a veteran, which a lot of people are expecting. I know Hunt and Fournette are still available. But at this point, this is Pollard's backfield. J.K. Dobbins is kind of the same way. Like, this is going to be his backfield. You're going to get your Gus Edwards work here and there because he has proven that he's just a trusty guy. But overall, I love Dobbins this year. He's year 2 coming off of that ACL, which historical data has shown that is the when players start to, really feel normal again and can put some full trust into the knee. So I'm a big fan of Dobbins this year in an offense that I think takes another step in the passing game, which will help the running game. So having Pollard and Dobbins 1-2, I'm a big fan of here. Khalil Herbert's your number 3. Got him in the 8th round, and that's fine. Like, it's okay. I probably wouldn't have done that if I were you, but you didn't totally blow the pick. Like, Herbert's going to be fine. Eli Mitchell, round 10. That's a pick. we were talking about handcuffs and stuff earlier. This is a handcuff I'm fine with because of the offense. Like, and Mitchell might carry standalone value at some point in the season, just depending on how injuries stack up there. Like, there's a completely realistic scenario where both running backs are producing because Debo's out and Kittle's out. And, you know what I mean? Like, they're just stacking injuries other places.
Don't say that.
I know, but but like, the point is, I like Eli Mitchell in the 10th round as a depth guy for running back.
Oh yeah. He'll have standalone weeks where he's probably top 30.
Right.
Just from his own usage.
And you got him as your running back 4. You doubled up in round 11 with Penny and Gainwell. I mean, I don't hate it because you're like kind of just taking a shot that late with both. But I wouldn't have done it because you're already taking running back 5 and 6 there. So like, you
Just
were far enough. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you were like really zero running backing the shit out of this, and you took those two as like your 4 and 5 or your 3 and 4, because you were just like that pigeonholed, just, you know, trying to have one stick, I wouldn't have hated that. But you'd already built the depth, so it just seemed a little unnecessary. But that rounds out your running back room. Here's the good stuff. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown kicking off first. Just, the dude's gonna be the target monster. And then he's got Keenan Allen, target monster. Drake London, probably gonna get a lot, but it's gonna be spread a little there. In the 4th round, probably would have gone Godwin myself, but I don't hate the London pick. And then your wide receiver 4 in the 6 is Deontay Johnson, another target machine. In a PPR league, you targeted the perfect dudes. The dudes who are going to get targets, they rack up receptions, they carry touchdown upside. I love this wide receiver room. The only thing I don't like is he took Jameson in the 12th. At this point, a 6-game suspension is, in redraft, I just don't know how you warrant it. It's not like you drafted AJ Brown in the 12th and they're like, yeah, well, when he comes back, like, I love Jameson. I want him to be that guy so fucking bad, but I just can't at this point in redraft. So that was the one sad part about the wide receivers here. Even like a pedestrian dude like Lazard or Zay Jones would have been a much better depth pick. He rounded it out with Nico in the 14th, which I do like Nico as like a guy. And, you know, I was ragging on the guys in bad offenses, but in the 14th round for a big receiver who looks like he could be that like trusted target for CJ Stroud potentially. 14th round, yeah, I'm cool with that. Tight end. So you drafted Dulcich at 1602, one pick ahead of my dude, Jake Ferguson. So I gotta give you shit for that because I love Ferguson this year. But then you had to drop Dulcich because he apparently is in Sean Payton's doghouse. And you now have Isaiah Likely and Noah Gray. So you picked up 2 backups when I'm sure there's probably another starter out there. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just taking a solid guess at it.
Yeah.
You fell for the Noah Gray trap. Sorry. Isaiah Likely is like an okay guy if you have Andrews. Like when Andrews was out in the past and Isaiah Likely's been the dude, he's produced pretty fine. But I wouldn't carry him unless I had Andrews. And even then I probably just wouldn't still.
No, I'm not handcuffing my dog.
So yeah.
That's a no for me, dog.
Agreed. Tight ends, you need work here. You obviously just punted it from the start, which I'm fine with the strategy, but you got to at least get guys who are going to be on the field. Like Noah Gray is only going to be a thing for a couple more weeks tops, and even then, he caught 2 balls last night,
and he's even not a thing.
Right?
Blake Bell caught the touchdown even.
Yeah, and then then you got Isaiah Likely, who has literally zero value unless Mark Andrews is out. Confusing moves there. On my notes down on the bottom, I wrote Trevor as the 8th overall. I like a lot. Reasonable shot at Kyler. I love top 4 wide receivers. I wrote you drafted 7 running backs because you drafted Evan Hull, but he's not on your roster anymore. You drafted 7 running backs, and overall you got like 3 combined starters. So that's something. But overall, really good team. Nico's a good pick late. I prefer Penny in the 11th, much to DeAndre Swift, who got drafted in the 6th. And overall, I think this team could be a contender because these wide receivers are badass in a PPR league. You got reception machines over here. So I think this team can make some noise.
I think I'm much higher on this team than you are. I like this team a lot. Obviously, tight end is a shit show, and that needs to be fixed immediately. Like, even if it's trading, Elijah Mitchell or like Komet or somebody that at least, like you said, will play the starter minutes, snaps. But I think this running back room slaps. I mean, Dobbins and Pollard is good. I think I'm clearly a Herbert guy. I think he's definitely going to be the guy getting the most carries. I know it's full PPR, but I just think he's going to be solid. Penny, until he's hurt, he's going to be very useful, in my opinion. He's a flex. And then he's got the wide receivers. He's got a good quarterback. So I think this team's
I got to be honest. I was pumping the brakes a little bit on him because I was going to pick him as my champion at the end.
Really?
And then you called me out.
Right, because you're wrong. This is probably my second favorite team.
I like this team a lot. Because I didn't want to there's the other team that's obvious, and I didn't want to go chalk. So I went with the team I knew well because I researched them. But also, like I said, I think this wide receiver room is gonna carry this team. But you also have a legit running back duo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you got
Scooby-Doo on that one.
You got Tony Pollard, the 207. I love that value.
Yeah. Dobbins in the 5th.
Yep. Yeah, I love the Amon-Ra St. Brown pick. We've talked about him several times. I see a huge ceiling for him. And we talked about on other shows that, everybody likes to say he doesn't score touchdowns. And the touchdowns are going to be different this year. And then he goes out in week 1. What's he do? He scores a touchdown.
The dude had the worst touchdown luck last year.
Yeah. He was top 10 in red zone targets.
Listen.
You see Jared Goff missed him running wide, booty butt naked down the seam. Like, literally no one was by him.
Hold that thought. Played so much Amon-Ra in DraftKings last year and got tilted so many fucking times because he'd get tackled inside the 5. Yeah, I remember that shit.
7
Dennis
times.
said 7 times, I guess. Yeah.
No, it's true. Trust me, that's my guy.
Speaking of that play, Ben Solak.
Yep.
Did you see that video, Dennis?
Mm-hmm.
Alex, did you see this?
I'm not sure.
I might have retweeted it. I don't know. Anyways, that play Dennis is talking about, Amon-Ra running wide open down the seam. Goff just didn't see him. He was breaking it down on film and showed that play in the playoffs against the Bucks with the Rams when Kupp ran the exact same concept, and Kupp was running down the seam, except Stafford saw him because he actually has balls. And
basically, you take your best player, wide receiver, put him in the spot, and run a clear out route, assuming the attention will be on him, and it wasn't. And Goff's like, nope, I'm playing the system, and Stafford's like, oh, this guy's wide open. Like, what are we doing here?
But the most impressive thing to me about it was that Solak was able to just pull that, because he did that last night. It wasn't even like he sat on that. Like, no, he saw that and was like, boom, playoffs. I was just like, what the hell?
Great follow.
Yes. So yeah, huge fan of this team.
Alrighty.
Dennis.
I'm up. So I have Hurts, don't it? All right. So looking at the information, I don't like this team. I have some thoughts. Little plus, little minus. 6th year in the league. Makes excuses when he loses. He's the unluckiest, and that everyone else is just lucky. So that's always a good look. Lost in the finals in 2020, but blown out by Hunter last year in 2021. Biggest playoff win in league history. Missed it last year. Usually pretty good. Refuses to trade or even listen to fair offers. Outrageous takes. And then just won't accept when he's wrong. I kind of like this guy. And he despises Aaron Rodgers. I didn't even know that part. Let's go. Yeah, I like Chris. I do have some shit to give you, but other than that, I like that. So I have some notes. So I called this team looks hot from a distance. He's got Hurts at quarterback. Kind of probably figured that one out. Odds-on favorite probably be the QB1 just because of his rushing touchdown upside and just the insane team surrounding him. I did say very original name though. Like, oh, you used a Hurts pun. Can't believe it. Anywho, running back room, you got CMC, love. But then Dalvin Cook, Zeke, and Hunt. So your running back room starts hot. So you have that going for you. And I'm a fan of the hero RB build. That's what I typically like to do. But you're really going to need some bounces to go from the, hey, it's not a bad thing when your team goes when you go months without getting signed in free agency, right? He's got 3 of those guys that were sitting there without a team for months after free agency started. So if I was taking one of those guys, that'd be fine. If I'm taking 3 of those as 75% of my RB room, I'm pretty worried. Wide receiver room, got Devontae Smith, Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, Zay Flowers, Kadarius Lookma, no hands, Tony, and Jalen Hunt, and Michael Gallup. I do like the stack of Devonta and Hurts, but overall this group is kind of lackluster. Terry McLaurin, he's a good player for sure, but he just never seems to have enough to really hit the scoring levels that people want him to get to. And he's already less than 100%, so I don't know how likelihood of that this year. Christian Kirk, he got usurped by Ridley, but he should be solid, especially in full PPR. That helps his value a lot. Zay Flowers, I absolutely love. And by the end of the year, he could be the X factor that this group really needs to kind of help him out. But it's just hard when you see some of the other wide receiver rooms in this league. Tony, some of us tried to warn y'all. Oof. Hyatt and Gallup, for different reasons, they just won't be dependable. Hyatt, he's going to be at best boom bust, and you won't know when to play him. Low target guy. And then Gallup, I would hold on to just because if something were to happen to CeeDee Lamb or Brandon Cooks, he definitely steps into a really good role, has that connection with Dak already. But I like this wide receiver room. I don't love it for sure. I would say it's mid-tier compared to some of these other ones. Tight end, TJ Hawkinson. I love Hawk. You have one of the set it and forget it tight ends, and that's always a huge edge. I'm not really buying into the Addison hype, so I think Hawk is a full go for top 4 tight end for sure, especially if Darren Waller already is banged up and might be missing time because he's someone that I have sneaking into the top 4. So that would push Hawkinson even higher to top 3. So overall, I think this team has legs. You're really going to need a running back to step up, like really bad. But your top 3 wide receivers, if they can repeat what they did last year, they were all, I think, top 15. You could be better than I'm anticipating, but just overall, I just think, you got great start with Hurts and with McCaffrey, but then kind of after that, kind of drops off. What are you guys thinking?
I judge my teams on their benches.
Mm-hmm.
I hate this bench.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney, Ezekiel Elliott, Jalen Hyatt, Tyler Boyd, Kareem Hunt, Michael Gallup.
Incredible.
Where's the upside?
I agree.
Yeah, I'd
At
be
least-
fine. I'd be fine rostering Boyd and Gallup on my bench, but that's about it.
I'll give you credit though. At least you did not start Kadarius Toney last night. Kept him on the bench. I'll give you that.
You don't know that.
I do.
you?
I looked. I went and I looked.
Oh, okay.
I did.
All right.
I do know.
I was hoping that was a gotcha and we could have made fun of him.
He did the research.
I was too. That's why I went and looked. Shit on him, but
Yeah, you know, like I feel like their number one option everywhere is good. But
yeah.
Then,
I think kind of like we talked about with one of my teams earlier, where you're kind of missing that elite wide receiver one. That would really be my own, other than the bench, which I think the bench can be fixed pretty easily. That would be my only critique of this starting lineup, at least.
That's kind of funny because that team wide receiver one was Higgins and this one is Smith. So it's like totally the same type of dude. Like would be an alpha on his team, but there's just a bigger alpha on their team.
Yeah. But I do like that you have enough wide receivers that you're starting wide receivers in the flex, and you're not one of these other teams that's relying on Damian Pierce and Miles Sanders to start in your flex spots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overall, I like the team. I think they're probably a playoff.
Yeah,
I don't think I've said it to 6 yet, so I think I'm okay so far. It's easy to be like, oh yeah, they're a playoff team till 9 of the 12 teams, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I like this team. This is one of my favorites.
Yeah, love McCaffrey. I think he's monster year.
Just shore up your bench a little bit.
Yep. And then Zay, I got good feelings about him. I don't know. That just might be my homerism. I just love the guy. But
I agree.
I can't get behind this running back room past McCaffrey. I mean, like you already mentioned, Dennis, like the 3 guys who waited around. I don't want anything to do with Dalvin. I think it was obvious he already lost some juice last season. So another season after that, no thanks. He's not even the most talented back in the room. So double no thanks. Zeke as your running back 3. Like Zeke is like break glass in case of emergency kind of roster dude, not your running back 3. Yeah. And then your running back 4 is unsigned.
You better hope he goes to Indy. But even then,
you better hope he gets signed, and you better hope nobody gets hurt because you might be up shit creek without a paddle, my friend. Hurts, don't it?
I got nothing after that.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
We on to my team?
Yeah, hit him.
All right. My next team is Healy. I guess that's what we'll say. This is Roshan. He's known as the Rat. He always instigates shit and he starts drama when he just wants to be entertained, whether it be fantasy football, like making terrible lopsided trades, like he's traded Travis Kelce for J.K. Dobbins, or even in reality. He hasn't made the playoffs in 4 years, though he's one of the founders. Like I said before, I think half the league is a founder. He's one of the usual bottom feeders of the league. Doesn't really know anything at all about football, and he's just in it because he's friends with the group, and he enjoys causing chaos in the league in any way he can possibly do it. So we'll see if he's got a roster at all.
I love how fantasy leagues have the exact same personalities across every league. Because, Dennis, I don't even have to tell you, we have this exact guy. And yeah, you already know who it is. Like, that's hilarious.
Starts with a B.
Uh-huh.
So our quarterback, we got Joe Burrow. He's healthy, supposedly, good to go for week 1. I think he's going to be Joe Burrow. He's a top 5 quarterback every single week. Running back, Saquon Barkley. I really like Barkley a lot this year. I think he's got RB1 overall in his range of outcomes, without a doubt. There's no significant receiver in that offense. So the passing game is going to go through, and the whole offense is going to go through Darren Waller, who's already hurt, and Saquon Barkley. His receiving numbers could rival his rookie year when he had 121 targets and 91 receptions that year, on top of what he's going to do in the running game. So I really like the Saquon pick. Derrick Henry in round 2, I'm a little bit more, or I don't know if you picked him round 2, but he's your RB2. I'm a little bit more concerned about him, a little more skeptical on Derrick Henry. It's Derrick Henry. We know what he's capable of, but he's going to have to get it done behind the league's worst offensive line. So that's where my concern is. And I don't know how good the offense is going to be to allow him to score touchdowns in that offense. And then maybe he keeps up the receiving uptick that we saw. He had career highs, receptions, and targets last year. Hopefully he gets that this year. That'll at least help him overcome the offensive line deficiencies and the whole overall offense struggle. Samaje Perine, I don't like as much as I did earlier in the process, now that we know that Javonte Williams is healthy, or at least we think he's healthy. Seems like he's healthy. But we'll see what happens with Samaje. I like him on my bench, though. Deuce Vaughn, I don't really like him on the bench here. I don't think he's the RB2 there. If anything happens to Tony Pollard, yeah, we'll get a little splash of Deuce Vaughn in the offense, but he's not getting, your 15 touches a game. He's never going to be that guy. He's going to give you, seven touches. He'll be explosive, and hopefully he holds up for those, but I don't think his fantasy football potential is worth hanging on to on your bench.
If all the pieces fall into place for him, and I mean all of them, he's Darren Sproles. And even then, he's still not going to be Darren Sproles. So,
right.
I
don't think he's Tariq Cohen.
You're counting on the outlier of all outliers.
Right.
And that's just not a guy that I think is worth holding on the bench at this point. We'll move to wide receiver. Got DK Metcalf. I think he's got a higher ceiling than most think he does this year, even with the presence of JSN and Tyler Lockett. Christian Watson, he's going to miss week 1. And he's really reliant on Jordan Love taking the next step, because I don't think you can count on the same high touchdown rate that he rode to his breakout in the second half of last year. He's going to need more targets, more yardage than what he was getting if he's going to repeat what he did last year, because he's not going to be able to rely on scoring a touchdown at the rate that he was doing. Jordan Addison, I know, Dennis, you mentioned you're not a huge Addison fan.
Yeah.
Really? It's just like you don't like the talent, or you don't like the situation? Like, what do you think?
So he dominated at Pitt, and then with good quarterback play, right? And then he goes to USC, which is also crappy defense has been against. Better OC, better quarterback. Production went down. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he's a special player.
Well, I think
Hutchinson is better.
I would have to look, but I think the overall production went down for sure. But I don't know if within his own offense, if it went down, like the target share, touchdown share,
percentage
those types of numbers,
yardage and stuff like that. Yeah, but I was just expecting like a monster year. And then he's 170, right, and didn't run crazy fast. That's not good. He's got to compete with Justin Jefferson, God's gift to wide receivers, and then a good tight end too. And so I'm not seeing the same hype as others.
I think he's a super, just pure wide receiver. I think he's a really good talent. Smooth route runner. And Adam Thielen, dusty Adam Thielen, commanded over 100 targets in this offense last year. So I think there's still plenty of room for someone like Jordan Addison to come in and have 110, 115, 120 targets in that offense. Give you 80 receptions, 1,000 receiving yards as a rookie.
I'm impressed by his ability to go up and get a ball too, for his size.
For his size, yeah. With Christian Watson out, I'm not thrilled about Addison being my wide receiver 2 in week 1. So I could have a little concern there, but I think he's going to have a good rookie season. Your other receivers on this roster, Odell Beckham and Darnell Mooney. Not jumping out of my chair, excited for either one of those guys. Tight end, Dallas Goedert. We talked about him for a second earlier. We all like Dallas Goedert. He's, your top 5, top 6 tight end. Going to give you, steady production. Probably doesn't have the ceiling to get into the top 2 or 3. But he's going to be a guy you can rely on week in, week out. Great offense, great quarterback. He's got the talent. You got Cole Kmet on the bench. Yeah, he's all right. Overall, I like the early portion of the draft with this team, though I would have preferred, a wide receiver in round 2 instead of Derrick Henry. But Saquon, Derrick Henry, DK Metcalf, Joe Burrow to start a draft is really solid. Even the next 4 picks with Christian Watson before the injury, Goddard, Addison, Antonio Gibson. I think those are all solid picks. But again, I would have liked to have added another wide receiver in there somewhere. So I like the early portion of your draft, but I hate your last 7 picks. You drafted absolutely zero upside in the back half of the draft after playing it relatively safe in the early rounds, which is fine. I like keeping it safe in the early rounds. I think that's what's going to keep this team from ascending, though, from a decent, middle of the pack team to a potential contender, because you don't have a ton of upside sitting on this bench or in your flex spots that can take you from, a good team, safe, good, solid picks early in the draft to, okay, now I can take the next step down the stretch portion of the season into the fantasy playoffs and really rocket yourself to a top three finish. You guys agree with that? What do you think about this team?
Fortunately for them, they got, let's see here, where was it? Oh, I don't know. What I was going to say is, they played it good as far as keeping it pretty safe. Didn't totally screw anything up like we've talked about. And I totally agree with what you're saying about the back end of the bench here. I don't understand the Cole Kmet hype. It's happening again. I just don't I thought after last season the train was people were jumping off the train, but it's happening. The train's speeding up again. What's going on here?
Yeah, I think that was kind of a wasted pick after drafting Goddard.
I agree. I'm not a fan, especially after you already had Mooney. You don't really want too many pass catchers, not DJ Moore in this offense, in my opinion. But yeah, he did take Derrick Henry in the second round over some really good wide receivers, and I think he was kicking himself because he could have gone Monty instead of later on, instead of having to kind of force wide receiver just looking at this draft.
I believe he even drafted him over Tony Pollard. If you were going to take another running back there, I like Pollard. I think he went one.
He did take him over Pollard. But Waddle, Ridley, Olave, Smith were there.
Yeah, I would feel a lot better about this team with one of those guys.
Could have gotten Deontay later on, but he kind of felt forced to go Goddard. I don't know.
I think I remember what I was going to say a minute ago. Fortunately for him, I don't think he's going to be a bottom feeder again.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is a solid team.
I think this is one of mine that I'm going to say doesn't make the playoffs.
Ooh. Yeah, I just don't see any standalone value for Vaughn. Komet. Odell doesn't do anything for me. Like you said, Alex, the upside on the bench is just completely lacking. Your biggest upside bench guy is Geno, and he's your backup quarterback.
Behind Joe Burrow.
Right. So
relying on an injury there. You can't start two.
I do like Antonio Gibson, especially, he got him pretty late in the 8th round.
That's probably your best late upside guy.
But yeah, I'm overall, yeah. I think if you start with Barkley at your 1, that's fine. But I think you got to go wide receiver with your second pick.
Yeah. I need to walk out of my first 2 rounds with at least 1 wide receiver and 2 out of after round 3. I want to have 2 wide receivers in the first 3 rounds.
I love Barkley this year, though.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see the usage going down. They just don't. They continually just don't add anyone else. And I think that
just nobody good.
Well, yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, I just think it shows what they really think about that guy.
Yeah.
All right. Zach, you got one more.
This one's a doozy. This one is AJ Lamar Doggies Steelers. And I'm a little confused because on Sleeper your name is P Poo Karthik, and you guys have a guy in the league whose name is Karthik. So there's a lot of P stuff going on in this league, I've noticed. But P Poo Karthik / AJ / whatever your team name was, where'd it go? Lamar Doggies Steelers, the most lovable and nicest guy in the league. Big Ravens homer. Oh, okay. The pieces are falling into place, guys. Always reaches for Lamar, Andrews, and/or Tucker. Hasn't made the playoffs in 4 years, so stop reaching for Andrews. There's your first piece of advice. Made the finals 5 years ago because Andrews wasn't a thing yet. With one of the most dominant teams we've ever seen. More in it for the camaraderie than that the fantasy football brings. And favorite line of the evening, one of the founders. This team, so that explained a lot. You got Lamar at quarterback, that's what's up. I mean,
that's how Mahomes lasted the QB4.
Yeah.
And he took Andrews in the 2nd round too at 208.
All right, just you shut up. Let me cook. Hold up, let me cook.
Okay.
I love Lamar. He's one of the guys who's capable of going nuclear any week against anyone. You don't have to stack Lamar. Like, I'm down to stack any quarterback, but if there's a guy in the league where you're like, yeah, you don't got to at all, it's Lamar. Yeah, I love Lamar. There's nothing bad to say about Lamar. So we're gonna move down the roster. You went 0 running back. Your first running back is DeAndre Swift as your RB1 in the 6th round. Turned it around with James Cook. Your RB3 is Jerick McKinnon, noted pass specialist. And your number 4 is Tyler Algier. Ugh. Yikes. So yeah, no depth. And bad depth. I like McKinnon as like a guy, like a depth guy, but he doesn't get carries. And he didn't look great last night. And he's your running back 3. The only saving grace for your running back 4 to hit the field is Bijan going down. And that's it for running back. 4
Evan
scares me a
Hall.
little. Oh, this team has Hole now? Oh, okay.
But
So, but yeah, he sucks. he ain't a thing either. So, yikes. I stand by the yikes. Wide receivers. This wide receiver room is like in Step Brothers when Brennan makes his fancy sauce and he hands the bowl over to Dale, and Dale sniffs it and he goes, I don't like it. It smells weird. You got Tyreek Hill, you drafted 105. He's exempt from any comments being made about this team. Tyreek to the moon, 105, hell yeah, let's go. The issue here is your wide receiver 2 is Jerry Jeudy, and you waited till the 6th round, and you drafted him when he's already hurt. Your wide receiver 3 is Hollywood Brown, and he's playing on one of, if not the worst offense in the league, with, Josh Dobbs or Clayton Tune throwing to him. You turned it around after Hollywood in the 8th with Quentin Johnson in the 9th, not a starter. Your wide receiver 4 is Donovan Peoples-Jones. Low volume, deep threat. Your wide receiver number 6 is another Cardinals receiver, Rondell Moore. Your number 7 is Tank Dell. Why? Just because it's preseason warrior week 1, I guess, is the only reason. And after that,
some of these guys aren't on this roster anymore.
Oh, is Tank Dell not?
Tank Dell's not, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Did you mention him?
Yeah, also not. But he added Hunter Renfrow, so it's all good now.
Oh, good to go. So you're drafting guys in the 12th to cut them a week before the season even starts. Draft strategy all around is just absolute mess here. Tight ends, you got Mark Andrews, and then you got my guy Jake Ferguson in the 16th, which is a great pick.
No longer. He's got Greg Dulcich.
What is happening?
You got to look the ESPN one.
You dropped Jake Ferguson to pick up a tight end who's not the tight end 1 on his team currently.
I would still rather have Dulcich over Ferguson.
Hands down. I know you love Ferguson.
Right. I can get behind that, but this is where the problems come in. We got Mark Andrews at 208. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. This is way too high. You took him over Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, all 4 of the top quarterbacks.
No.
Probably some running backs that were better that I just didn't even write down. Like, I don't know, everybody practically there. And you did it when he's already got a freaking injury. Insane. Hit it back up at the end of the second with Lamar to complete the stack. Like I said, you don't even need to stack Lamar. Why didn't you take Lamar first? That's my question. Like, if you're going to take one of those dudes naked, I want Lamar, not Mark Andrews. So take Lamar and risk Andrews getting sniped. I don't know. That just makes no sense to me.
No other tight end went for two complete full rounds after Mark Andrews.
Right. Just a complete, absolute overstepping your boundaries, taking your guy, homerism pick. And I've made some bad Jags homer picks, and this is just something else. I wrote down the 8th and 9th round made me sad. Because that's where you took Hollywood at 8 and Quentin Johnson at 9. Like, what is going on here? You took Hollywood over Zay Flowers, the guy you could have stacked with Lamar. So I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. And like I said, Quentin Johnson, when you're running your wide receiver room is that rough already, and then you draft a guy who's not even starting. I don't know, man. I'm baffled. More running back depth if your first running back is in round 6 or DeAndre Swift. Wide receiver room is an absolute mess. I wrote, you took Swift over Monty, James Conner, Pacheco. A lot of running backs I would have easily gone over. DeAndre,
Yeah.
just give me the guys with the volume. Like, it's like you don't got to overthink that part. You clearly went 0 running back here, except you really screwed up the not running back part.
I was gonna say, do you think he intentionally went 0 RB, or is he just sucks at drafting and it just happened to be 0 RB? Because it doesn't look like he really followed any 0 RB strategy other than not taking running backs early.
Like, remember, like when I was saying earlier that like if you're gonna go 0 RB, you gotta be studs for else. Your top flex can't be one of your running backs.
Yeah.
Your whole goal is you're only starting 2.
You're flexing Jerick McKinnon and Rondale Moore.
What the hell am I looking at?
It's
Exactly.
easily
How do you take 2 Cardinal wide receivers?
Oh my god. I don't even know if
This
I can take one. With Josh Dobbs at quarterback or Clayton. Oh, what? This is easily the worst team in this league, right?
Yeah.
It's so bad.
You completely neglected running back, and you were just drafting dudes like Rondell and Donovan Peoples-Jones and Tank Dell when Jeff Wilson was sitting there. You could have just drafted him late, threw him on your IR, and then picked up one of those shitty guys. And then you have a flyer on a running back and a good offense. Michael Gallup was available while you were taking all these shitty receivers.
If you're going to go 0 RB, by that point, you should be done with wide receiver. But you drafted so poorly at wide receiver that you still had to keep drafting wide receiver anyway.
And like it sucks. I like Hollywood and I like Quentin Johnson at a certain point, and I can't even defend these guys. Oh my gosh!
And then to hit a back to back like that.
Yeah, same round. You got them both.
Yeah, this team is not good. The last note I have written down was Lamar Monday Night Football. Because this guy really shit his pants.
But at least he's the most lovable, nicest guy in the league. We'll give you that.
That's fair.
I mean, you're gonna have fun, right? You get to watch your favorite players, so that's fun, right?
He's in it for the camaraderie. He wants to draft his Ravens. I guess let him do his thing, but just be prepared to finish in last place.
He has a lot of my favorite players, and I still hate this team so much.
Yeah, right. Like Lamar, Tyreek Hill.
I love Dulcich.
Right,
Greg the third. Yeah, we need to move on. This is just going to be. I'm happy that you're a good champ and people like you. That's always good.
Keep being a nice guy. We like that.
Yeah. Be a fun guy.
Just keep being a nice guy and just passing the draft value to your friends.
Next time you draft, just go to yardsforfantasy.com, download our rankings, just draft right off of them.
And take a few Imodium.
All right. The next guy we got is IA Thomp 1915, which is only slants, which I really like that team name, but how did you not draft the slant god, Michael Thomas?
Oh.
I mean, what do we do?
When I saw the team name, I was expecting him to be on the team.
I mean,
he must have gotten sniped from Michael Thomas.
I mean,
the one guy who got disappointed that he didn't get to draft Michael Thomas.
So this is Ian. So I don't know if he's the one being peed on or not. But you do you, bro. You do you.
Oh,
I support
I'm saying
you.
no kink shaming.
2 consensual adults, or more than 2. I mean, group shower. Anyway, always has a pretty good team, but can never get over the hump. Isn't very active in chats or trade, but very knowledgeable. He's our out-of-towner. Again, every league has one of these people. Known as the super rich businessman, too focused on business to do anything else. So good for you.
Fantasy football is not business.
Right. It's big business now.
Yeah.
The P thing kind of makes sense. Businessman. Just moving on. QBs, Tua and Kirk. I like the move of waiting and then grabbing two guys who are right around that QB 10 to 15 most weeks. I like that move. If you are someone that doesn't get one of the top 7 or 8 guys, hopefully you're good at picking the right one. That's all I gotta say about the QBs. RB room. He's got ETN. He's got Kenny Three Sticks. He's got Madison, AJ Dillon, Donta Foreman. I think this is an upside group, and overall it's in good shape. We'll have its frustrating weeks for sure, but also the big ceiling ones. With ETN and Walker, they're big home run threats, so they'll have weeks where they really pop for you. So that'll be great. Madison, I know Alex has gone hard on him, and I'm mostly in that boat of he hasn't been very efficient or very good. So you're 100% counting on he's getting back when what's his face Zimmer was there, kind of volume for running back, and so maybe that does happen. But also, if it doesn't, good luck.
2 straight years under 4 yards per carry for Alexander Madison.
Yeah, and I'm very much team explosive running back, which is why I love the first 2 guys he drafted. I don't love the next 2 because AJ Dillon's also not explosive.
Athletically, he is. I would say he's explosive.
He's got explosive thighs.
Yeah, he's like 240. When you ran a 2.39, that guy's gonna be explosive.
He did not run a 4.39. There's no way.
I think no he did.
way. Oh, please, somebody Google.
I'll get back to you.
Twitter.
Keep going. I'll get back
There's
to you.
no chance. Donta Foreman, he's the clear 3.
While he's doing that, Dennis, I made the point on the other show we did, the one you weren't on with us. I said about Alexander Madison in today's NFL, dudes like ETN, Ramondre, I don't know, people in that tier, they're considering these guys aren't good enough to be workhorse 3-down backs. And we're supposed to be on the train that Madison's that good. Get out.
All right, I got an AJ Dillon update for you. So I think I got him. He was in the same draft class as Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor ran a 4.39. However,
explosive athlete.
However, AJ Dillon at 247 pounds ran a 4.53. So he's got a speed score in the 98th percentile. He's explosive. For his size.
That was not the argument.
You know who ran a 4.39? Trump at 6'3", 215.
Same size as Lamar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darnell Mooney ran a 4.37. That's why I knew AJ Dillon did not.
Yeah, Darnell Mooney ran a 4.37 at 180 pounds.
I'm just saying, put them in a race. They're not moving at the same speed. Anyway, let's move on. I've never been a Dillon guy. I kind of believed for a minute last year, and then it blew up in my fucking face. And so I'm a hater. Anywho, I do like this running back room. I think it's solid. Wide receivers, you got my boy Jalen Waddle. Love him. Lockett, Burks, Mingo. Bruh. Waddle's going to have to he's going to be like Greg Jennings, broken leg, putting the team on his back versus one of the hottest hidden safeties, Den Shapa. Because you have 4 wide receivers in a full PPR league. What are we doing here, folks? Waddle's a star. Love it, love it, love it. His game's great. And stacking with Tua, even better. Because them two, when Tua plays, Waddle is elite. But after that, you're just hoping and praying, man. I mean, in a full PPR, the goal is you're starting 4 wide receivers. So Lockett has a ton of competition. I think he's the 3 in that offense. They added another running back along with the great Ken Walker that you have on your team. And then Burks is in a 1980s style offense. Like they're playing defense and they're running the football 25 plus times with their 250-pound running back. I just don't get how you only have 4 wide receivers and your 4th wide receiver is Jonathan Mingo. Like, is it a Beatles thing? You wanted your Mingo? Like, what are we doing? That offense will be rough. They're going to run the ball all day because that's what they did last year before they had a rookie quarterback. I just think Mingo's a raw prospect. I don't even think he's usable in redraft. Like, maybe you take a flyer on him and just hope and pray. But, like, if he's your wide receiver 4, you're counting on him. I mean, I guess we'll see. Maybe I have egg in my face. I hope for your sake. I do. I just hate that strategy of how do you only take 4 wide receivers in a PPR league. Tight ends, this sucks because you had Kelsey, who is that difference maker that this team desperately needs, and he's already missed a game, which hurts you. Hopefully he's back next week, but I mean, I know he was pushing for it this week, and the Chiefs want to be safe, which makes a ton of sense. And normally, if you draft Kelsey, I'd be bashing you for taking a second tight end, but thank God you did, because you do have Kincaid, who definitely has potential. But you got to be salty that you were sniped by 1 pick for Njoku, because if you're going to go tight end there and you could have gotten Njoku over Kincaid, that's like 6-7 spots in the tight end ranks for me. So Kincaid would definitely be better end of the year than early of the year. Again, it just sucks that you have Kelsey hurt right now, because that would be like a great, bench stash for later on. But until then, you just need to hope that the embarrassing game the rest of the KC pass catchers put up, the embarrassing game the rest of the Kansas City pass catchers put up against Detroit is enough to force Kelsey back. Easy for me to say, I guess. Overall, you're just not that guy, pal. If this was Shark Tank, I'd hit you with the quick, I'm out. I don't like this team. I don't like your build. You got unlucky with your best player, which was just that's not your fault that Kelsey got hurt. But when you build your team like you did and then you get unlucky, there's always next year. I'm a Cubs fan. We live that mantra, right? So there's always next year for you. That's what I got for only slants.
It's sad because if you look at this team, all right, let's just say you slot Kelsey up in the starting position, because like obviously he drafted before he knew that, before that happened. So let's just pretend Kelsey's your tight end. If you start at Tua, Etienne, Walker, Waddle, Lockett, Kelsey, you're like, okay, we're onto something here. And then it just
yeah, early on I liked this team, and then I was like, wait. What about you, Alex?
Yeah. I like the early picks as well. Tua, Waddle. However, I'd be a little bit concerned with them week 1. I was all excited. That game against the Chargers could be a high-scoring game, but with no Teron Armstead on that line, that is an underrated story right now heading into week 1 for fantasy football. That's really going to affect Tua. It's going to affect Jalen Waddle as well.
So
especially going against Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack on that Chargers defense.
I was going to wait for you to be done to say that. Yep.
Last year, everyone liked to talk about the EPA splits when Tua was on and off the field, which was a thing. Like, don't get me wrong, their backups are garbage. But Armstead was also gone at the same time, like the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that even in the time Tua played without Armstead, there was still a significant drop. That when your offensive passing game is predicated on that quick strike timing stuff, and your left tackle is as good as Tron Armstead, that's a huge blow.
Yeah, he's in that tier with like Trent Williams and Lane Johnson, where like it changes everything because they're so freaking good. You can just get away with stuff that you can't get it. Like normal teams don't have those kind of humans on.
And if you look at Jalen Waddle's rookie season, his average target depth that year with no Teron Armstead on that team. Teron Armstead comes in last year, his target depth goes through the roof. Now, and there are other factors as well, but
Tyreek.
it also gives Tua the time to stand back there in that pocket and hit Tyreek Hill down the field, hit Jalen Waddle down the field. I'm not so sure he's gonna have that this week, which really sucks because this could be the shootout matchup of the week if it weren't for that.
Yeah, Zach and I were talking on an earlier pod that we just don't think this game gets into the 50s, like the over-under says.
Yeah, offensive line is a very underrated part of fantasy football. We don't talk about it enough.
Do you guys think I'm going too hard at the build? 4 wide receivers?
No, I would agree with you there.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're starting in a PPR league, right now it looks like Madison and Dillon are in his flex. That is not what I want to be rolling out in a PPR league in my flex. Even in a half PPR league, I don't want those guys in my flex.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Dennis, he hit ETN and Walker, and it's like, yeah, you got big home run potential with both of those guys. They don't need to get 25 carries to have their big explosion games. They can score from anywhere on the field. Like, yeah, I'm down for those two as a 1-2 combo, but from there you need to just pivot and just load up your receivers.
I don't think you needed to draft Alexander Madison after drafting those two guys. That's where you should have been taking wide receiver.
Yeah.
And looking at your roster right now, you have 2 kickers. Drop.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Add a 5th wide receiver. I just noticed it now. So I was looking, I'm like, maybe, there's some quick moves. That's the instant one.
You're not into
Kelsey in the IR. Oh, you probably can't do Kelsey in the IR because the game already happened. But you could have added 2 wide receivers.
That's true, but he could have been on his game and put him in the IR spot before the game happened.
So, but come on, only slants.
So you're not into the handcuff kicker strategy?
Oh goodness, I'm not into kicker strategy. Get them out of fantasy.
Listen, handcuffs getting kicked. We talked no kink shaming here, guys.
Even the Morton Anderson league we did doesn't have kickers. They named their league after the kicker, and they got rid of the kickers. Come on, get with the times, guys. Come on, Hunter, have some influence on this league, man.
Yeah, Hunter.
I think we've done enough bashing of only slants.
Get with the 10 founders and make a change.
Maybe they're really like the founding fathers and they're all like 300 years old.
Yeah. They're sticking to their outdated constitution. All right.
Play how our
but you see the thing is back then, kickers have completely changed from what the founding fathers meant when they said kickers. You
exactly. See? You just keep dragging us political. All right, Alex, wrap us up.
Let's move on to not the white ghost. His name is Andrew. I think you said there are 2 Andrews in this league. This is Andrew G. I'm not going to try to pronounce this. Greta?
Yeah, I should have just said B, and I went for it. I regret it.
So Andrew G has a fetish for Najee Harris or any sneakers.
Get out of here. They really use that word.
Hunter wrote this up.
No kink shaming.
So he's got his Najee Harris fetish. Also for any Steelers player, that could be a key piece to the team. He's always had a bad team. His unofficial nickname is the last place average because over the past 7 years, he has the worst average finish. That's what happens when you have a Najee Harris fetish. He constantly hates on the Ravens because half of the league are Ravens fans, and he's a Steelers fan. And he's constantly in the bottom of the league due to poor roster decisions and refusal to ever trade. But the last 2 years, he has legit been truly unlucky with injuries to literally his whole team and getting the most points scored against him for 2 straight years. So at quarterback, he's got Deshaun Watson. Quite a few negative reports have come out about Deshaun Watson.
Recent news?
I'm at like 27.
I can't believe you meant that about football.
That's not where I was going. But yeah,
He's so genuine right now. He did not plan that.
anyway, I meant about training camp and preseason. He's been struggling. All right, not playing well. Let's move to running back. Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson in the first round. I'm not a huge Bijan in the first round guy, but okay. Can't deny the talent. He's a great talent, great player. And then of course, you gotta please the fetish with Najee Harris in the second round as your RB2. He's gonna lose some touches to Jaylen Warren. So I hate to tell you, he's gonna lose some touches. But I mean, Najee Harris is still going to give you, enough touches where he's going to be, decent, high floor, low ceiling, low end RB2. But I don't think he's going to give you what you want him to give you. Brian Robinson, another one of these boring running backs. We've talked about him on past shows. I think the last time we talked about him, we compared him. We called him the Tyler Higbee of running backs. Just kind of a plain, boring guy who's going to give you some touches, but he's going to lose some work to Antonio Gibson more than you'd like to think. I think Jamal Williams, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the bench. Maybe Jamal Williams gives you a little bit of value while we're waiting for Alvin Kamara to come back. Then we get Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Played more than I expected last night, but he's still not a guy I would even think about rostering in this league. Moving to wide receiver, Devontae Adams. I think he can still give you a top 10 wide receiver season. So he must have been your second round pick, I would think. Not Najee. All right. So if you got Najee in the third round, we're okay with that. Devontae Adams in the second round. DJ Moore is your second wide receiver on this team. Finally got best quarterback of his life. Still a low volume passing offense, but I think it's going to be enough for DJ Moore to thrive in that offense. I think he can give you probably low end wide receiver 2 numbers for most of the season. Brandon Ayuk, I think, is another just solid wide receiver. Could be a little volatile. Got a lot of target competition in that offense with Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle in that offense as well. And he's going to really have to rely on Brock Purdy being the guy that we saw at the end of last year, and not, the last guy drafted in the draft last year. So if Brock Purdy is going to be what he was last year, I think you're fine for that 49ers offense. Otherwise, you're in big trouble with Brandon Ayuk because he's not the top weapon in that offense. That would be who would suffer, I think, if Brock Purdy did not play well, and if they had to turn things over even to Sam Darnold. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to be fine. Mike Evans, I'm not convinced Mike Evans is still going to be on this Buccaneers roster by the time we get to the trade deadline. I think he is going to be – there's a chance he's playing elsewhere. Where? I don't know. But I don't think he's a great match with Baker Mayfield, especially at Evans at this point in his career. I think he's at that cliff. I think he might have started to go over the other side of that cliff last year. And he's not going to get the passing volume is not going to be there in that Buccaneers offense that he had last year. His target share was down. His efficiency was way down last year. And the touchdowns were not there. Like, he's been relying on touchdowns for several years, kind of have been, making up for the lack of efficiency on his end. But the touchdowns went down last year. And now with no Tom Brady, the passing volume is also going to come down. So I'm really concerned about Mike Evans. He was on my do not draft list this year. Alan Lazard, Rashee Rice. Don't have a lot to say about those guys. Not a lot of upside there. Darren Waller, Gerald Everett at tight end. Waller's already injured. which was why his ADP was as low as it was. Not that it was low, but it would have been higher, I think, without his injury history. Because if he's healthy, he's going to be the top target in that passing offense. And we know he's capable of top 5 tight end season. So we'll see if he gets healthy. Hamstring injuries are tough. But if he gets healthy, he could definitely return value for you. But I think in the meantime, you're fine with Gerald Everett. He's a guy you can definitely plug in, especially against the Dolphins this week. So I think, it's solid tight end 2, decent tight end room there. Overall, solid team, good foundation. Sean Watson, Bijan Robinson, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Darren Waller if healthy. These are the guys you're kind of, this team is kind of built around. You're relying on these guys the most. But I have the same critique I had for my last team. You didn't draft for upside at all. I'm not saying every pick needs to be upside. Like I said before, I like to lean safe with my first 5 picks or so. But this bench on this team is almost as bad as it gets. I know we had a bench earlier that was probably worse, but this one is right there with it. It's Brian Robinson, Alan Lazard, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just blah, blah, blah guys on this team. If I were you, I would be looking at the waiver wire. Go pick up some handcuff running backs. That's what I like to have on my bench. Go get Josh Kelly. Go get Jerome Ford. Go get Tajay Spears or Zamir White. These are explosive athletes who your league would be falling all over each other to go pick up off the waiver wire if anything were to happen to an Austin Eckler or Nick Chubb or Henry or Josh Jacobs. And these guys are suddenly thrust into the RB1 chair in their real-life offenses. Your league is going to be running to the waiver wire to go pick these guys up. Why don't you just roster them now? And then you can plug them into your starting lineup or trade them when their value is at its highest peak. What do you guys think of this team?
Agreed on the upside thing. I mean, just drop Edwards-Helaire and take someone like Alex was mentioning.
Yeah.
Like, just cut the tie there. What's your end game with CEH? He leads a timeshare. Like, go get one of these dudes like Alex mentioned that their upside is legitimately getting 20 carries a game. Like, you got to get more upside. Overall, though, this is a good team. Not too many mistakes. I love the fact this is the Steelers fan, right?
Yes.
Sniped Ravens defense and Justin Tucker. Love that.
There you go.
Top-notch move. And then lastly, I don't know how I feel about Rashee Rice, but I was actually impressed last night.
He did look the best out of all the Chiefs receivers. Which isn't saying much.
Right. But it's like the land of misfit toys over there. But yeah, he had that like one nice catch on a third down on a drag and then made some nice yak on it. He was the guy who found himself open for Mahomes on the scramble drill, caught the touchdown. So yeah, I think if there's like one of the upside guys for the Chiefs at receiver, I think I'm cool with that.
And after all his drops in the preseason, he was the one who could actually catch it last night.
Right. So yeah. But overall, it's a good team. Dennis, you're muted.
You're on mute.
I like a lot of these teams. The one thing, though, there's 3 times if you would have done just a little bit different of a draft pick, you would have had an awesome draft. Instead of Najee, you could have had Ramondre. And you would have had Bijan and Ramondre as your top 2 running backs. Instead of Evans, you could have gotten Dotson. That would have been a much better wide receiver 4. And then instead of Allen Lazard, you could have had Zay Jones. And all of a sudden, this wide receiver room looks incredible. I want to talk about Deshaun Watson because he did take him as quarterback 11, which I think is pretty crazy.
Oh, that's not bad at all, yeah.
Tua went before him. So I like a lot of this team. I think he's on the upswing because this guy is the the bottom dweller, right? And now he's
Yeah.
had a couple good years in a
Ooh,
row.
that
Just some
makes-
bad luck.
That gives us like 2 perennial bottom feeders with much better teams
Decent
than
rosters,
normal.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Cool.
Zach said, I love the trolling of getting the Baltimore guys that these fans clearly wanted. So he took Tucker so early, which normally I would trash, but if it's just to piss off the rest of your team, the league mates,
Hell
I
yes.
give you a pass. It was worth it.
The Najee pick makes sense though, because the Steelers.
Yeah, but dude,
Well, he's got the
Ramondre.
Najee fetish.
Yeah, speaking
Right.
of touching, you kept talking about touching and Najee and his fetish, and I was like, there's something there.
Like I don't have the quick wit to formulate this joke right now, but there's one there.
He would touch Najee, that's for sure. But yeah, I like a lot of this team, and if Waller can stay healthy, this team. Man, I like Evans more than I think you are, especially if he gets traded. I'm not the biggest Ayuk fan. He could have gotten Deontay. I would have loved that, especially being
I
a
much
Pittsburgh
prefer
guy.
Deontay.
Yeah,
I
me
can't
too.
believe he did that over.
He
Deontay.
was still on the board with Ayuk?
Unless I'm reading the arrows wrong. When Ayuk was, Ayuk to the left, and then Deontay was at 6'12". He took Ayuk 6'05". Yeah, so he went Ayuk and Evans when he could have gone Deontay and Dotson, which is definitely what I would have done.
Yeah, I would have done that too, absolutely.
But I don't think they're bad. I don't think they're bad guys.
No, it just could have been better.
Yeah. But overall, I think this one's pushing for, I think I'm right at 5 playoffs. This might be my 6th. But if I already said 6, then this might be my first one. Or they're going to fight for it.
Yeah, I think this team's probably in that 5, 6, 7 range for me.
Yeah.
Still hate the bench, though.
Yeah. I don't like
I'm a big bench guy. I like a good bench.
Well, I agree.
don't like this
upside. You should
Same.
do well.
Yeah,
Your
that's-
first 6, 7 picks. Like, they're good players. You shouldn't pick bad dudes.
I love a good bench. Maybe a nice book to read, some nature. Yeah.
I think
sounds.
you can lose your league in the first 5 rounds. You win your league at the end of your draft in the later rounds with the upside.
I love Devontae Adams and DJ Moore. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But, I agree with what you're saying. You can't win your league in the first. That's what Matthew Berry used to always say. You can't win your league in the first couple rounds. So you can definitely lose it.
Yeah. And you're not going to lose it with your bench, but you could definitely win it by hitting on these late round guys, which I think you whiffed on all of them.
I kind of like CEH just as an upside because the offense, but I agree. Like, he's not like a must hold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you're only rostering a guy because he's on a certain offense,
Scary.
That's scary.
Gerald Everett, one of the few Chargers I trust. I like him just because of cost.
Yeah, I think with Darren Waller out this week, I think you'll be fine.
I agree.
Everett gets a really nice bump from Kellen Moore though, because Kellen Moore utilized tight ends in Dallas like so well. So I can only envision his usage will look a little better too.
He's like a more fun. He's like a convertible version of Higbee.
And you know there's no way that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are playing 17 games. So
chance.
I'd say at least 50% of the weeks, Gerald Everett's your number 2 option in the passing game. If you're not counting Eckler.
Yeah.
Not counting Eckler.
Okay. Do I want to go who we think's going to win it all?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we all have the same team, right? I'm really disappointed.
I already spoiled mine. I know.
Yeah. It's definitely Hunter the front runner. That kind of rhymed.
Yeah.
But I am, if we were looking at it from like a betting market angle, I'm gonna take the better odds on peeing on Ian.
I agree.
Yeah, so when I was ranking ranking my teams, I went through all the rosters, kind of put together a handful of teams that I thought could be legitimate contenders. I did not know whose team was who at that point because I didn't want to be biased towards or against Hunter. And it turned out that Hunter's team was my favorite after I did the name reveal. So good job, Hunter.
Who's your
but
third?
after that, I would see. What about Veni Vidi Vici? I don't have the roster in front of me, but I put him down.
That was mine. Is the really good wide receiver room.
Yeah, this
Chase
one
and
has
Garrett
Justin
and Ridley.
Herbert. So I'm higher on Rachaad White than you guys are. So I think that's part of why I really like this team. I think he can be, an RB 15 or so range for you. And when you did a zero RB draft strategy, and you're going out there and you're going to hit on Rachaad White as a top 15 running back, I think you're winning there. We have these receivers.
Once again, you hit the volume guy, and then your second running back is also the starter. So, like, yeah, you did this. You pulled the strategy off well.
And then you went and you picked up Jaden Reed after that other boneheaded guy dropped him.
Crazy.
That's a great move. I do think you made some mistakes if you're going to draft zero RB, like we talked about when we discussed this team. You could have gotten some better running backs in the later rounds. Probably didn't have to take a Van Jefferson, for example. You could have taken a running back there. Possibly even the same thing with Anthony Richardson, even though I don't hate the Richardson pick in the 11th round. I'm fine with it, but I think if you're going to draft zero RB, you went and you got that top 6 quarterback. So you might as well just not draft a backup quarterback. You're going to make yourself weak at running back. Go load up on those high upside running backs. But otherwise, I think this is a really, really solid team. You look at Jamar Chase, you look at Garrett Wilson, you go at Calvin Ridley, and then George Pickens, who has a chance to have a breakout season as your wide receiver 4.
Mm-hmm. I like full Chubb.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't?
Who doesn't love a good dick day?
Yeah.
Some days it just doesn't bring it. Some days it does.
All right. Well,
on that note,
we're gonna wrap it up here. And that's all we got, folks. Hope you had fun with us because we always have fun, as you can tell. A lot of nonsense. Hopefully you enjoyed the analysis. And I think the thing that does make these awesome and fun is us getting to rag on you guys. And so it gives you content to rag on each other more. Because honestly, when you're playing in a league with all people you know, the most fun part of it is talking shit to each other. So I'm glad we can be a part of that with you guys. If you enjoyed it, tell your friends who have leagues who might want to, and tell them to come on down.
Yep.
We'll do more. We'll keep these things firing. Like, we're having fun doing it. We're turning them around pretty quick. People are liking it. And yeah, tell your friends. Anyone else got anything?
Remember to reach out on Twitter if you have questions or advice or want to give us feedback or want to get us back for us roasting you. We have our Twitter handles on our screen, but I'm at Madison Madman. Alex?
Yeah, I'm at _JohnsonFF. Always happy to help. And you can join the Yards for Fantasy Discord as well. We've got a whole crew of people in there. We'll help you.
If you play DFS, we also got DFS leagues starting up where you can come play DFS with us. It's only $5.
Yeah, a contest every week. And see who wins the most contests throughout the year.
Yeah, come roast us on Twitter. That'd be fun. I'm for that. All right.
All right.
Goodbye, friends.